For years, Richard Rawlings seemed unstoppable. Whether he was chasing rare muscle cars, making risky business deals, or racing against impossible deadlines, he always appeared to thrive under pressure. Millions of viewers watched him build an automotive empire through determination, confidence, and a willingness to take chances that most people would never consider. But behind the roaring engines and television success, another story was unfolding. As the years passed, rumors began following him everywhere. Some questioned the future of his businesses. Others wondered if the fast-paced lifestyle that made him famous was beginning to take its toll. Fans noticed changes. Familiar faces disappeared. Major business decisions raised eyebrows. Yet through it all, Richard rarely addressed the speculation directly. For a long time, the rumors remained exactly that, rumors. But now, at 55 years old, Richard Rawlings appears to be acknowledging what many people suspected all along. Not through a shocking confession or dramatic announcement, but through the choices he has made and the way he speaks about his life today. The question is not whether Richard Rawlings has changed. The real question is why. And to understand that answer, it helps to go back to where his journey began. Long before television cameras followed his every move, Richard Rawlings was simply a young man with a passion for cars and an appetite for adventure. Growing up in Texas, automobiles were more than transportation. They represented freedom, independence, and possibility. While many children dreamed about becoming athletes or movie stars, Richard found himself fascinated by engines, restoration projects, and the stories hidden inside old vehicles. His path to success was far from easy. Like many entrepreneurs, he experienced failures before finding success. He worked hard, took risks, and learned valuable lessons from setbacks. Each challenge strengthened his belief that persistence mattered more than comfort. Eventually, those experiences helped him create Gas Monkey Garage. What started as a passion project gradually became something much larger. Richard built a reputation for finding neglected vehicles and transforming them into valuable machines. His energy and confidence attracted customers, partners, and eventually television producers. Yet success brought new challenges. As Gas Monkey Garage grew, public interest in Richard's life grew alongside it. Fans wanted to know everything, not only about the cars, but also about the man making the decisions. At first, the attention felt exciting. But attention can quickly become pressure. Every success created higher expectations. Every mistake became public discussion. Every decision invited criticism from someone. Few people realized it then, but the very success Richard had spent years building would soon create challenges he never expected. And those challenges were only beginning. When Fast and Loud first appeared on television, it immediately connected with viewers. The formula seemed simple. Find interesting vehicles, restore them, and hopefully make a profit. But the show's popularity was about more than cars. People connected with the personalities. Richard's confidence, humor, and willingness to take risks made him an entertaining figure to watch. Audiences enjoyed seeing the highs and lows of the restoration business. Successes felt exciting. Failures felt real. Before long, Fast and Loud became one of the most recognizable automotive shows on television. The success changed Richard's life dramatically. Gas Monkey became a global brand. Merchandise appeared around the world. New business ventures expanded the company's reach. Restaurants opened. Partnerships formed. Opportunities seemed endless. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But rapid growth often creates pressures that the public never sees. Managing multiple businesses while filming a successful television show required enormous amounts of energy. Expectations increased with every season. Fans expected bigger projects, larger profits, and greater excitement. The pressure to maintain success never stopped. At the same time, people began noticing changes behind the scenes. Certain partnerships evolved. Familiar faces moved on. Business decisions sparked debate among viewers. Questions began appearing online. Was everything as successful as it appeared? Was the empire becoming too large to manage comfortably? Richard continued moving forward, but the speculation continued growing. And before long, those questions would become impossible to ignore. Success brings attention. Fame brings scrutiny. Richard Rawlings experienced both. As his public profile increased, so did interest in every aspect of his life. Business decisions became headlines. Personal relationships became discussion topics. Social media transformed ordinary events into public debates. For fans, this curiosity came from admiration. For critics, it provided opportunities to question every move. Rumors spread quickly. Some stories focused on finances. Others centered on business changes. Many speculated about the future of Gas Monkey and Richard's long-term plans. The challenge with public life is that silence often creates more questions than answers. For years, Richard chose not to respond to much of the speculation. Instead, he focused on his work. He continued developing projects, managing businesses, and pursuing new opportunities. But living under constant observation can affect anyone. Every entrepreneur experiences uncertainty. Every business owner faces setbacks. The difference is that most people do not have millions of observers analyzing every decision. Over time, the weight of public expectations becomes difficult to ignore. Fans often saw the confident television personality. What they rarely saw were the pressures that came with maintaining that image year after year. As speculation continued growing, many people wondered whether Richard would eventually address the rumors directly. For a long time, the answer seemed to be no. But change was coming, and it would arrive through a series of decisions that revealed a different side of Richard Rawlings. As the years passed, attentive fans noticed something interesting. Richard Rawlings seemed to be entering a different phase of life. Some business ventures changed direction. Others ended entirely. New projects appeared while older ones faded away. To outside observers, these shifts generated even more speculation. But there was another way to interpret what was happening. Perhaps Richard was not retreating. Perhaps he was evolving. People often reach moments in life when they begin questioning old assumptions. Goals that once seemed important lose some of their appeal. Priorities shift. Success starts to mean something different. For Richard, those changes appeared increasingly visible. The entrepreneur who once seemed focused entirely on expansion now appeared more selective about where he invested his time and energy. This was not necessarily a sign of weakness. It may have been a sign of maturity. Years of experience had taught him lessons that no television show could capture. Success had brought opportunities, but it had also brought stress, responsibility, and sacrifice. By his mid-50s, Richard appeared to be looking beyond short-term victories. Instead of constantly chasing the next big achievement, he seemed increasingly focused on sustainability, fulfillment, and long-term purpose. To many fans, these changes felt subtle. To others, they felt significant. Either way, they hinted at a larger transformation taking place behind the scenes. And eventually, that transformation would help explain why so many of the rumors existed in the first place. Despite his accomplishments, the rumors never truly disappeared. In many ways, success fueled them. The more famous Richard became, the more people wanted answers about his future. Every business announcement generated new theories. Every interview created fresh speculation. Would he retire? Would he sell his businesses? Would he slow down? Would Gas Monkey continue evolving? The questions seemed endless. What made the rumors interesting was that many reflected genuine curiosity rather than criticism. Fans had spent years following Richard's journey. They felt invested in his story. They wanted to know what came next. Yet public figures often face a difficult challenge. Responding to every rumor can become exhausting. Ignoring them entirely can allow misunderstandings to grow. For years, Richard appeared comfortable letting the conversation continue without much involvement. But eventually, something changed. His interviews became more reflective. His public comments seemed more personal. Instead of focusing only on business growth, he began discussing broader themes such as happiness, purpose, and balance. These conversations offered clues. The rumors were not necessarily pointing toward scandal or failure. They were pointing toward transformation. Many of the changes people observed were real. The difference was that they reflected evolution rather than decline. And at 55, Richard finally seemed ready to acknowledge that reality. The confirmation fans were waiting for would arrive in a form few expected. When people hear the phrase, confirms the rumors, they often expect a dramatic revelation. In Richard Rawlings' case, the truth appears much more thoughtful. Rather than delivering a shocking confession, he has increasingly shared a different perspective on his life and career. The message is simple. Life changes. Priorities change. People change. At 55 years old, Richard appears less focused on proving himself than he was during earlier stages of his career. The relentless drive that helped build his empire remains present, but it now seems balanced by experience and perspective. Many of the rumors centered around the idea that Richard was changing. In a way, those rumors were correct. But change is not always a negative thing. As he discusses his future, Richard often sounds like someone who has gained a clearer understanding of what matters most. Success is no longer measured only by profits, ratings, or expansion. It is also measured by personal satisfaction. That shift may be the strongest confirmation fans have received. The entrepreneur who once seemed determined to move faster than everyone else now appears more interested in moving with purpose. For longtime viewers, this honesty offers valuable insight. It reveals a man who has spent decades chasing ambitious goals and is now choosing how he wants the next chapter of his story to unfold. But what exactly does that next chapter look like? That question may be even more important than the rumors themselves. Many people assume that reaching 55 means slowing down. Richard Rawlings appears to see things differently. Rather than stepping away from the spotlight completely, he seems focused on reinvention. Throughout his life, adaptation has been one of his greatest strengths. Whenever circumstances changed, he found new opportunities. Whenever challenges appeared, he adjusted his approach. That pattern continues today. The difference is that his goals appear more intentional than ever before. Instead of pursuing growth simply for the sake of growth, he seems interested in projects that align with his personal interests and long-term vision. This represents an important shift. Younger entrepreneurs often chase opportunities because they want to prove themselves. Older entrepreneurs often choose opportunities because they understand themselves. Richard's recent journey reflects that transition. The excitement remains. The passion remains. But there is also a deeper sense of perspective. Fans who expected retirement may have misunderstood what was really happening. Richard was not stepping away from his identity. He was redefining it. That process can be challenging because reinvention requires letting go of old expectations. It requires accepting that success looks different at different stages of life. Yet for Richard, that willingness to evolve may be one of his most impressive qualities. Because sometimes the biggest risk is not trying something new. Sometimes the biggest risk is refusing to change at all. In the end, Richard Rawlings' story is about far more than rumors. It is a story about growth. It is a story about adaptation. And perhaps most importantly, it is a story about learning how to define success on one's own terms. For decades, Richard built a career around ambition. He chased opportunities, embraced challenges, and transformed his passion for automobiles into an internationally recognized brand. Along the way, he experienced triumphs and setbacks. He faced criticism and praise. He encountered uncertainty and success. Each experience helped shape the person viewers see today. At 55, Richard appears to understand something that many people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Achievement alone is not enough. Meaning matters too. The rumors that once dominated discussions now seem less important than the lessons behind them. They reflected a man moving through a period of transition, a man reevaluating priorities and choosing his future with greater intention. For fans, that realization offers a deeper understanding of his journey. The real story was never about whether Richard Rawlings had changed. The real story was about how he changed. And perhaps that is the legacy he will leave behind. Not simply as a television personality, not simply as a businessman, but as someone who repeatedly adapted when life demanded it. When the cameras stop rolling and the headlines fade away, people may remember the cars, but they may remember the reinvention even more. And that raises one final question. If success is ultimately measured by growth, then could Richard Rawlings' most important chapter still be ahead of him?